Welcome back to Movie Flix.
Today we are going to recap 2005 drama and indie movie titled The Ballad of Jack and Rose. Jack is an environmentalist with a heart condition who lives with his daughter Rose on an isolated island. While Jack fights against developers who wish to build in the area, he also craves more contact with other people. When he invites his girlfriend Kathleen and her sons to move in, Rose is upset. The complicated family dynamics make things difficult for everyone in the house.
But before we begin, please consider subscribing to our channel. Now, without wasting any further time, let's begin, shall we?
The movie is set in 1986 on an island where a Scottish farmer, Jack Selvian, lives with his daughter Rose. The island was once a hippie commune, but now developers want to build houses there and settle with their families. Jack is doing everything in his power to keep the builders away from the island. Rose, on the other hand, is a lovely adolescent who grew up isolated from the outside world. Rose was homeschooled and cared by Jack after her mother left the family. Jack has a heart condition and does not have much time, so he suggests to Rose that they hire someone to assist them. Rose, on the other hand, does not want anyone else in their lives and storms out. She dashes to her treehouse and sobs. Jack pursues her and promises Rose that she will leave before he dies. Rose, on the other hand, responds that the day he dies will also be her last. Rose is afraid of losing Jack because he is the only person she loves in her life. Rose will be completely alone without him, as she has no one else in her life besides Jack. After telling her a story, Jack departs from a nearby town, claiming that he needs to get some work done. When Jack arrives in the town, he goes to a home of a woman named Kathleen. She is Jack's girlfriend and they have been together for a while. Kathleen agrees to move into Jack's house and live with them. He also tells her that she is welcome to bring her two children to live with them. Kathleen agrees to his request and asks if Rose is aware of it, to which Jack responds that he will take care of her. Jack returns home and informs Rose that he has invited some visitors to stay with them on an experiment. Kathleen arrives the next day with her two sons. Jack and Rose greet them and assist them with their belongings. Rose, however, realizes that they will staying for a longer time. After seeing their luggage and belongings, Rose is disturbed by the new arrivals and feels isolated from her own home. Rose is upset with Jack and decides to leave. Jack pursues her and attempts to converse with her. Rose, on the other hand, is enraged because Jack kept his relationship with Kathleen hidden from her. Jack explains that this is merely an experiment. If Rose grows to like Kathleen and her children, they will be able to stay together. But if they don't, Jack will ask them to leave. Thaddeus approaches Rose later that day and asks her to show him any nearby places where he can catch snakes. Rose drives him to the woods where Thaddeus erects his trap. Thaddeus is interested in her, but Rose dislikes him. Rose returns home later that night and goes to her room. She overhears Jack and Kathleen laughing on her way. Rose enters a small room to spy on them and discovers them having sexual relations in bed. She enters her room and removes her top and examines her body. Rose develops a strange jealousy with Kathleen. Believing that Kathleen is stealing Jack away from her, Rose goes downstairs topless and requests that Rodney mate with her. She believes that if she loses her virginity, Jack will fall in love with her again. Rodney is taken aback and refuses to mate with her. He tries to reason with her, but Rose pursues him in order to them to mate. Rodney, on the other hand, is a man of commitment who politely declines her advances. Instead, he trims Rose's hair. Rose grabs the shotgun and heads straight to her father's bedroom after getting her hair cut. Kathleen awakens terrified to see Rose pointing a gun at them. Rose is taken aback by her and drops the gun, which accidentally fires. Jack walks Rose into her room, completely taken aback. But he quickly forgets about the incident and believes she only did it to scare Kathleen. Kathleen, on the other hand, believes Rose has some psychological issues and advises Jack to send Rose to a school for troubled children. However, Jack is irritated by this and tells Kathleen that there is nothing wrong with Rose. All he wants is for Kathleen to look after Rose after he passes away. Rose and Rodney become good friends as time passes. One day, a man named Gray arrives at their home, delivering flowers to Rose and Jack on a regular basis. Rose later asks Gray to teach her how to kiss. Gray tells Rose that her first kiss should be romantic and unintentional rather than planned. Rose tells him that he can kiss her romantically, but Gray refuses and walks away. Rodney and Rose go to their dogs one day and picks up Rodney's friend Red Berry. Rose shows Red Berry her treehouse after they arrive home, where they spend the entire day having fun. Rose returns to the woods later that night, discovers a copper hen trapped in Thaddeus' trap. Rose makes the decision to bring it with her. While driving back, Rose notices Red Berry and Thaddeus kissing in his car. Rose decides to lose their virginity to Thaddeus after being rejected by both Rodney and Gray. Rose returns home and hides the copperhead beneath her bed. Thaddeus later enters Rose's room. Despite her dislike for him, Rose allows him to mate with her. The lock of the cage falls open due to the vibration of the bed, and the copperhead escapes into a hole. Rose checks her sheets after Thaddeus leaves and dances in delight when she discovers blood stains. When Jack goes outside the next morning, he notices Rose has hung her bloodied bedsheet in the front yard and written just an experiment. When Jack learns that his daughter has been ruined, he is devastated. Kathleen cries out loud as she notices the copperhead in the bedroom, just as he is about to scold Rose. Jack tries to track down the copperhead to kill it before it kills anyone. Meanwhile, Thaddeus discovers his cage beneath Rose's bed. Rose explains that all she wanted to do was scare Kathleen. After dealing with Copperhead, Jack confronts Thaddeus and tells him that he has one day to leave because he has ruined his daughter's life. Rose hosts a screening of a homemade film about a hippie commune in a treehouse later that night. While everyone enjoys the movie, Thaddeus tries to kiss Rose. Jack is enraged and attacks him. Rose pushes Thaddeus, who has fallen from the treehouse during the scuffle. Kathleen is furious with Rose and orders her to leave. Thaddeus survives the fall and is whisked away to the hospital. Rodney invites Rose to accompany him on his departure from the island. Rose, on the other hand, politely declines, stating that she cannot leave Jack in his current situation. Rose, on the other hand, is upset with Jack for not having the courage to express his love and flees. She goes to one of the apartment complexes to spend some alone time. Jack waits for Rose to return home for days, but she never does. Jack is fed up with the waiting and sets out to find Rose. He tracks her down in one of the housing developments and apologizes to her, saying he would have never let the outside world in. He was afraid that if he died, there would be no one to look after Rose. Rose expresses her desire not to see Kathleen again. Citing the events of the treehouse, Jack realizes he must make a choice between his girlfriend and his daughter. As a result, he departs, claiming that he must attend to a transaction. He returns home and offers Kathleen $10,000, then $15,000 to have her leave. Kathleen agrees to accept a monetary settlement of $20,000. Jack returns to the housing development and informs Rose that Kathleen has decided to leave. Rose is overjoyed with the news because it means that it's just the two of them again. Kathleen is leaving the next day, so Jack and Rose spend the night there. Jack collapses on the bed and Rose enjoys him. Rose kisses Jack as they stare at each other. This astounds Jack, who cannot believe his daughter is in love with him. He also cries as he blames himself for allowing her to kiss him. The next morning, Jack awakens haunted by the memory of the kiss. He climbs aboard the bulldozer and demolishes the housing development. Later, he and Rose visit the home of real estate developer Marty Rance. Jack wanted to inform him that he had demolished the housing development. Marty, on the other hand, claims that he can rebuild it without difficulty. He also offers Jack a large sum of money in exchange for his land. Jack gives up because he has no more fight in him and agrees to sell his land to Marty. Rose is displeased with his decision and does not want Jack to give up, but Jack has made his decision because he wants Rose to have a future. Rose and Jack return home to find Kathleen gone. Jack is now very weak as a result of his heart condition and he does not have much time left. Rose awakens the next morning to discover that Jack has died in his sleep. Rose, who had planned to commit suicide when Jack died, lies next to her father and sets fire to the house. However, she later changes her mind and flees. Rose is now living in Vermont and working at a greenhouse where Gray also works. She is pursuing her gardening passion and living the life her father desired for her. And this is where the movie comes to an end.
I hope you enjoyed it. As always, until next time.